Hello, and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness, where the goal is to hopefully let you, the listener, leave feeling a little bit happier, or at least maybe a bit more at ease or educated about something that's going on in your brain. My name is Scott McKinney, and today I want to talk about compliments. Now, here's something that I will say. I currently have a tornado warning where I'm at while I'm recording, so there's a pretty good chance that at any moment the recording will cut out. So if there's any abrupt pauses or anything like that, just know that that's exactly what that's from, and that there might be a little bit of a rough transition. That was a joke, not a good one, but it was a joke indeed. But there is a tornado warning, but I don't think I'm going to have any issues recording, so that's why I'm doing this now. So, time to dive into it. The reason that I wanted to talk about compliments, and I know I start every episode by saying that, but I want to give some sort of an explanation on why I'm talking about the thing that I'm talking about. And recently, I feel like being complimented is something that a lot of people don't get enough of. So, I spend a lot of time on Reddit, and it's kind of my go-to social media. It happened pretty much overnight. I just realized that it's a nice form of social media. It's content better suited for me, and I talked about that a little bit in the social media episode. But whenever I go into the comments, a lot of the time, no matter what kind of theme or comment section or subreddit I'm on, there's always people being overly nice in the comments, and it's honestly kind of wonderful. I don't see that a lot of times, especially not from strangers on other forms of social media or anywhere else really. And it's something that it's made me think a lot about just the act of complimenting as a whole, because it's so much easier on a place like Reddit, where you have an anonymous you have your username, but ultimately you're an anonymous person. They don't really know who you are, they being everybody else. And it's really easy to say something. Say someone puts up a work of art. Like I'm a fan of Pokemon and Zelda and a lot of Nintendo related things. So if someone puts up some sort of their interpretation or drawing of Link from Zelda, and it looks good, you can always scroll through the comments and see people just saying like, hey, this is really good, keep up the good work, I'd love to see more of your stuff. Or like, what other, do you have a different profile where you show all of your art? Is there anything like, where can I learn more about it? Or just, it looks great, keep it up. And it's nice to see that, because it's really nice to see a community of people coming together and just kind of showing appreciation and care for someone else. And it's really out of nowhere. It's kind of unwarranted, not unwarranted, because it's good to give those compliments, but it's weird. It's a strange environment, because it's not something that people would do in public or with like their friends all the time. So like, if I have a friend who's a particularly good artist, the chances for me to go up and be like, and I could see a piece of art that they've done, and it's let's say it's beautiful, it's just great, it's something that really catches my attention, I might not be as likely to say, wow, that looks really good, keep up the good work, or I that's phenomenal, I hope you can get some, like, is that commissioned, like, tell me more about it, what was your inspiration, and learning more about it. I'm a lot less inclined to do that, as I'm sure everyone is, because showing that compliment and showing that appreciation immediately makes you more vulnerable and puts you on the spot. So it's something that is difficult as a person to showing appreciation, showing a compliment. It's hard to do. And now I'm not just saying that it's hard to give a compliment about a work that, or a piece of work or art, or some sort of hobby or passion project, or even good work that they've done at their job where they're employed. It's not just saying actions or activities that they've done. It also encompasses just general compliments. I mean, Alex, she's one of the smartest people that I've ever met. And I don't hesitate to tell her that I think she's incredibly smart. Now, I'm not saying she's the smartest person on earth. although because she listens to this podcast, I'm inclined to say that she is. But I'm just saying that I don't hesitate to tell her that. And I can usually see it in her eyes and just, those micro expressions that are on her face. I can usually see it that she genuinely takes that to heart, and maybe she doesn't think she's the smartest person, and I'm not trying to psychoanalyze my girlfriend, but maybe she doesn't think that she's the smartest, or maybe she's struggling with something because she's still in college. So maybe she's having a particularly hard time in a class or something like that. So maybe she's struggling. But saying something like that, I can see it make her feel a little bit happier, even if it's only by the tiniest bit. It might not be something that she hears very often. Now, whenever I was in college and stuff, I never felt very smart. Just as a person, I know I'm not the smartest person out there. My favorite things to do are not math. It's not to study, except maybe business, because I do have a lot of fun with that. And I love studying people and their habits and, different stuff, psychology related. And I love writing and storytelling, along with just talking. So, I have my interests. I have the things that I love to do and the things I'm interested in. But they're very different from what a lot of other people like to do. So whenever I was in a class in college, we'll say I started college with computer engineering as my intended degree, and that didn't work. But whenever I was in the class, physics, I was getting slaughtered because I just didn't understand it. And the reason I didn't understand it wasn't because I'm a stupid person. It's because I genuinely just had no interest in the topic. And that's the case for everybody. Nobody has to be the smartest person out there. People just need to find what they're good at and kind of embrace it. I'm really bad at physics. I'm bad at calc. I'm bad at math. I don't like it. Whenever Alex and I go out to eat, if I'm paying, although we try to keep it pretty even, I don't just pay for everything. I like that equality in a relationship. But no matter what, if I'm paying and the waiter comes back and say I pay with my card, and they're just like, here's this, you have to fill out what the tip is, I just hand the receipt to Alex and let her do the math, because I don't even try. I don't want to pull out my phone. I don't want to do a simple trick or learn how to do a 20% calculation. I don't want to do any of that. And it's not because I'm stupid. It's honestly, I'm definitely stupid whenever it comes to math. But I'm really, really, really unmotivated. And I think that's the main thing. But what I'm saying is, for me, if someone were to see something that I'm more passionate about, say I'm in physics and I have a D or something like that, and I'm doing pretty poorly, but then I'm in a marketing class, which is actually what I'm passionate about, and I and there's more drive there, and I have more motivation to study and put in the extra time, and I'm pulling off an A. While I'm in that physics class, I'm going to be feeling like shit, just complete and total shit, because I know that I'm not doing well in this particular area that I'm in, or this particular class. In that marketing class, I could pull off an A, and I could be thrilled about it, and I would be, because that's just something to be happy about. It's one of the little things, and that's coming from someone who I really don't care about school that much. I know it's important, and I know that a lot of people value and benefit from it, including myself. I mean, I graduated from college with a marketing degree, and it's something that has taken me to places career-wise that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to get to. But I don't think, I was never the most studious student. I was actually a pretty poor student. And in that marketing class, even though I'd get an A, I'd feel pretty good about it. But because human beings are just more inclined to focus on the negative, say if the only two classes that I were taking are that physics class and that marketing class, I might feel tremendously smart in the marketing class while I'm in it. But then for the rest of my day, whether I'm in or not in the physics class, I'll feel really dumb, because I know that there's this, lingering feeling of failure just hanging above me. So if anybody, and I'm not trying to sound self-aggrandizing, and I don't want this to sound like I want people to just build up my ego, because I'm not fishing for compliments. I don't care. The compliments that I want people to give, I want them to be genuine. I want them to be heartfelt. And for example, if I talk to my family members, like my siblings or my parents, the compliments that I give them will be genuine, and I will have to feel them, because otherwise I wouldn't say them. And so this is not me coming out and saying, "Oh, tell me I'm smart and tell me I'm good at doing a podcast," because that's not what I'm about. I couldn't care less about it. Um, if I walked away from all these podcasts and there was like a wave of hate coming towards me, but like I made a few people feel better, that's ultimately the goal that I have. Not necessarily getting the wave of hate, but making people feel better. So, but basically what I'm saying is, say I'm in that physics class and I'm in that marketing class, and someone sees me in that marketing class, and I'm trying my hardest and I'm having fun with it and I'm doing pretty well, and someone just kind of acknowledges it other than putting a grade on a paper and says like, "Hey Scott, you're doing pretty good, this or you're really good at this, or you're doing, you're smart whenever it comes to marketing," or something like that. That's something that I held on to and will hold on to and would have held on to, because it's someone just acknowledging that I'm good at something. And it's something that not everybody does. I mean, whenever it comes to education, especially the education system, but again, just with basic everyday relationships, it's not something that everybody does. Especially as a man. I don't mean to have any of the lessons or the things that I talk about be gender specific, but being a man, I genuinely don't hear compliments very often. Now, that being said, I'm in a friend group that is pretty open, and I think part of that comes from the fact that I'm very open and I allow myself to be vulnerable. So I kind of gravitate towards people that like that and kind of feel that same way. So I feel like I do, I do compliment and do get complimented by my friend group, especially from Alex. I mean, we compliment each other tirelessly just because, I mean, we really like each other. And I like to think that I do a pretty good job when it comes to my family too, even though I know I'm the youngest, and that's no excuse or anything, but I definitely have a tendency to be that annoying little brother. So maybe I don't say it as much for my older siblings, but I do what I can. And it's something that feels pretty good whenever it happens. I like giving compliments to people because I hope that it makes them feel better. I hope that people are getting compliments constantly, but part of the reason that, to me, compliments mean so much, and telling someone that they're pretty, or telling someone that they look nice, and in a totally non-romantic way even, if I say it to Alex and she just looks nice on a given day, nice, she looks nice every day. Again, she listens to this podcast, so I have to be careful. But, if I'm telling her something, then I genuinely mean it. It doesn't mean I don't feel it every other day, but it just meant that at that particular moment, I felt more inclined to say something. And, I'll say the same thing for my other friends. Say my friend has a job interview, he's dressed up in a suit, he's got a tie, he's got a nice shirt on. There's no harm or shame in saying, like, "Dude, you look fine." Like, maybe I'd say it in a weirder way, simply because that's who I am. But like, you're a handsome guy, or you're gonna kill it, or they'd be stupid not to hire you or give you another interview, or just saying something that makes them feel good, something to give them that extra confidence boost, something that they might not get from everybody. Not everybody has the most loving, comforting family or friend group. Some people just, they don't know what they're looking for, or they just haven't found it yet. And there's no shame in that. But if you're talking to one of those people that, let's say someone doesn't have the most comforting home life, and although that's unfortunate, it's sometimes you just can't control it, at least for a while, until, that given person can figure out more of what they want their life to be and how they want it to work out. But say you're talking to one of those people and you just tell them, "Hey man, you're killing it." Or I say man, but again, it's not gender specific. That's just how I speak. But, "You look great today," or "You're smart," or, "I like your outfit," or literally anything. I mean, I know that these are really basic compliments, but again, they're things that people don't say very frequently at all. And I think they need to be spoken more. Say someone's just in a terrible mood and they have maybe not the most comforting family, or friends or family that won't typically compliment them, if you tell them that they look nice, or that like the outfit that they're like, you like their outfit, it doesn't mean you don't like their other outfits, or that they don't typically look nice. It just means that you're feeling inclined to say that one day. That might be enough to just make them feel significantly better. And honestly, as someone that struggled for years and still struggles with that vulnerability factor, saying to someone, giving someone a compliment puts you so on the spot because people aren't typically expecting them. So if I go up to someone and just say, hey, you're looking pretty nice today, or like, I like your shirt, or, you know, I like your hair, or anything like that, I feel really uncomfortable about that too. Not because I don't mean it, and not for any negative reason, but sometimes it's just hard to say. I have this one, I don't know if I've talked about it here. I may have in a different episode, but I went into a Starbucks one time and some guy complimented my glasses, and I felt unbelievably awkward afterwards. And I was being ridiculous, and I hadn't gone back to Starbucks for a while. And upon further reflection, I realized that honestly, the guy was just a nice guy. But I just didn't know how to respond to it because no one's ever complimented my glasses before. Or it's something that, again, as a guy, as a man, I don't hear a lot of compliments, especially about my looks. Unless I'm like dressed up in a suit and going to a job interview or something like that. I very rarely hear people compliment my hair. And again, I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm not saying that or anything, but it's just, you know, it caught me very off guard. And I didn't know what to do, and I didn't go back to Starbucks for a while. Granted, that's not my go-to coffee shop, and the only reason I went was to get a pumpkin spice latte for Alex, but that's beside the point. It was weird. And I felt weird for months, literal months. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the guy was just nice. And even though I felt weird about it, I remembered it, and it put a smile on my face. It's the same as when, you know, I have a few friends that I send my writing to, and like every time I write it, unedited, just raw, just unadulterated Scott writing word vomit. And when they come back and say, hey, that was pretty good, that's not me fishing for a compliment or me doing anything. It just feels nice to know that someone out there finds or sees the value or enjoyment in the work that I do. I texted my sister at one point, and I had sent her my most recent writing. And I have a tendency to, in order to combat the vulnerability and awkwardness that I feel whenever I'm like being complimented or something, I sometimes have a tendency to act in a more arrogant and egotistical way. I know that that's a habit that I have. It's one that I kind of deal with, but I kind of just accept it, not because I think I'm the most arrogant person, but because it's just, I kind of like being grandiose sometimes and just saying stuff that's maybe overinflating my ego to like a comedic level. And I sent her something. It was something that I had written pretty recently, and I just said something along the lines of like, you know, is this why I'm the best writer ever? Or do you think, like, or is this good enough, or, you know, this is why I'm good enough to be a published writer? It's my way of avoiding vulnerability because I'm so passionate about my work. I really want it to be good. I want it to turn out well. And I don't dislike criticism. I thrive with it because it's helpful. But not all of it. I mean, as long as it's warranted criticism, as long as it's something that really has thought behind it, that's important. But I said that, and she responded with, and it was playful. It was nice. It was polite. It wasn't anything negative. But she just kind of responded with like a haha, you know, sometimes your ego gets to be a little much. And I totally agree, especially whenever I, you know, am doing something. And again, nothing negative towards my sister. I thought it was funny because it was true. But the reason that egotism came out was because I was vulnerable. And maybe at that exact moment, I can say honestly and just candidly, maybe I was fishing for a compliment because I want to know if there's value in the writing that I do. I want to know if people enjoy it. I want to know desperately if it's good enough to be published. And there's always a deep down fear in me that it's not going to be. I mean, I'm 22 and there's a lot of life left to be lived to not be a successful writer, and I'm terrified about that. And so whenever I send something out that I've written, that compliment is nice. It's something that would be really nice to get. Now, by my sister not complimenting me, does that mean that she's a worse person? Absolutely not. She's still great. I love her to death. She's doing great in her life. And again, nothing negative to anybody. But it was just, that was how I reacted. I was looking for a bit of a compliment, and the way that I did it was in a bit of an arrogant way to avoid that vulnerability. Now, a better way to ask, or to just ask a question, might have been, hey, what do you think? Like, do you honestly think that this would be good enough to be published? That's fair. That's a question that I could ask, but it would have put a lot more, I would have felt a lot more vulnerable about it, even though I'm asking the same question in different ways. One of them, I can hide behind the insecurity and the comedy of being an arrogant and sometimes pompous asshole. Now, why I wanted to say that was because sometimes compliments are nice. And not giving them does not mean you're a bad person, because a lot of people struggle with them. If you watch any TV show that has ever depicted a family ever, except for a select few, the dad in the family of whatever TV family you're watching does not typically give compliments. I've been watching The Goldbergs recently. It's a show that I don't dislike. It's kind of more background noise than anything, but I don't love it because the formula of it is, let's have two different plots going on at the same time, and then let's have one of the main characters get offended or upset about something, and because someone overreacts or unintentionally does something or acts maliciously or for their own self-interest, and then the episodes end with basically the same resolution every time, which is the person that did something wrong apologizes and accepts the error of their ways. So like the dad and the family in that show, they show very frequent compliments because that's just the nature of the beast. But in a lot of shows, like, the dad is very inclined to not show any sort of love or anything. The dad, the traditional American dad, and I say in TV shows, but TV shows are really a representation of the world that the TV show is being made in. I mean, the reason that shows become popular is because people can relate to them in some way or another. So the reason that the shows are there is because the people that watch them are like, hey, that's kind of like my life. At least that's my understanding. So, tell me I'm wrong if you want to, but that's at least my thought on it. But not a lot of people give compliments. So if you see it in a TV show, which in my opinion is just a representation of society at large, that people don't compliment, then chances are people don't compliment the majority of the time just in life, period. And it's a shame, because there's a lot of good things to be said. A lot. The whole reason that I got into writing and that I struggle significantly less with my depression is because someone told me, it was my friend Kyle, and I wrote the first chapter of the first book that I wrote, which is called Acceptable Casualties. Looking back on it, so this is, wow, maybe 2 years, maybe longer, maybe a little less than 2 years since I wrote that. But looking back, if I were to read the first chapter, I'd be totally disgusted because I think it's garbage. It's great. It was a great milestone because it was me discovering my passion for writing. But the actual quality, there's a lot to be desired. It's not great, and I have no problem admitting that. Even my second book, I know that there are a lot of flaws there, and there's no problem with it. But the whole reason that I got into writing was simply because I was excited. I had written this chapter. It was complete and total dog shit, But I thought it was great. I was excited that I had made something on my own. I had never really dedicated time to something like that. And I wrote it. And my friend Kyle said, hey, that was pretty good. I'm excited to see more. And that was it. It was as simple as that. I don't know if he understands the ramifications of saying something like that. And it's a pretty mild compliment. Hey, that was pretty good. I'd like to see more. But it rippled into my entire psyche and mentality. It made me realize that I could do something and I could make it, and I could make something, whether it be a podcast or a book or a card game, which is something I want to do more in the future, or like a board game, or literally anything. I like making stuff. And I didn't know that because I was always so stuck in my head and I was having a really hard time getting out. So whenever I found an outlet, if he were to tell me, hey, this needs a lot of work, I wouldn't have written again because I would have been totally discouraged. And I absolutely understand the importance of that small compliment, especially when it revolves around a passion project or something, because passion projects are what make the world go round. My passion is writing stories and trying to make people think. It's not even make people, at least for my writing, it's not even making people smile, because the stuff that I write is really dark. It just is. It's kind of my interpretation of the world sometimes, and I write dark so that I can be a happier person. So, but I want people to think about it, and I want people to try to understand the mind a little bit better and what goes through it, because that's my constant goal, is just studying people, studying different prolific people, studying, I don't want to say studying like friends or family, but I do. I watch what they do. I try to understand why they do it and what their motives are behind it. Because especially for someone that's like a pathological liar, and not even pathological, but if someone lies, there's motive behind that lie. Maybe it's to avoid vulnerability. Maybe someone's more inclined to say, I don't like your writing, because saying I do like your writing is so much harder for them that they would rather just outright say that it's not good or that they don't like it. There are people out there that are like that, because I've been there before. I've been so uncomfortable that I don't want to tell someone that something is good. I don't want to give them that satisfaction because it would put me on the spot, even though it's something that I'm sure they want, even if they don't know they want it. Because people just want to be acknowledged, because everybody's important and everybody wants to feel important. So telling someone that they're pretty and telling someone that they're smart, telling someone that what they're doing is cool and that they're good at it, even if there's a lot of room for growth. Saying that someone's good at something, saying, I'm impressed that you've been able to do this. Like, a lot of people, for me, again, I like to write, and writing is something that I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I could write a book if I just set the time aside to do it. I strongly believe that if everybody was excited and passionate about writing a book, they could do it. But simply sitting down and putting in that effort is its own task. The book doesn't even need to get published, and it's impressive. So, like, I have some friends that like to do art. I have some friends that like to make music. And the act of dedicating time away from social media or other forms of media that are already existing, like TV shows or movies, finding time to sit down and create their own thing, to me, is really, really cool. And I think it's awesome. And I mean that very sincerely. And even if they don't like creating something, even if it's someone sitting down and like they love movies, and so they'll watch a bunch of movies and just try to understand the formula and what makes a movie good, and like why Citizen Kane is super overrated and stuff like that. Like, people just have passions about all different things, and compliments don't have to be just about looks. Some guy complimented my glasses. That's great, but these I'm gonna get new glasses at some point. So, that's not super important. At least to me. I mean, it feels nice, even though it also felt super uncomfortable. But, that's one compliment. And in the future, there's a chance that no one's going to compliment my glasses again, because that's not a traditional compliment. Now, at the same time, it's something that, it really makes a difference to tell someone that they're pretty or smart, or something, or like an actual quality about them that they maybe don't think about. I know that for me, one of the qualities that I as a person think is attractive in people, just not, again, non romantically or intimately, just that I think is a good looking quality for people is eyebrows. That's something that I think of. Like, whenever I think of people, or like what makes a face good looking. And I know that this sounds like such a robotic way to explain how to appreciate a face, but whatever, I don't give a fuck. So basically, I like eyebrows. I think they're cool. I think that if you have like really well kept eyebrows and they're trimmed and they have that point, or even if they don't have the point, because every eyebrow is different, they have arches or they have the point. I don't know. I think some people just have naturally good looking eyebrows. And I know that that's so weird. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there. I don't feel the same kind of like passion for eyes that some people do. Like, a lot of people love Bradley Cooper because he has just the deepest blue eyes ever. I mean, I think they look fine, but that's not what I'm focused on. So I'm not focused on his eyebrows either. I don't want to give off the wrong vibes, but whatever. But like, it just, as a person, everybody has their own things that they like about people that are appropriate. That is important. But, you know, if I decide that I'm going to give someone a compliment and I really want to mean it, then I'm probably going to find those things that I think people actually like, that I think about more. I'm not just going to say, hey, your face looks good, because I think that's a weird compliment. I think all compliments are weird that I give because I'm a weird person. But if I say, like, hey, you know, I see that you waxed your eyebrows, or something like that, like, your eyebrows look good. And say they didn't wax their eyebrows. Say that they just have naturally pretty good eyebrows. Then they feel good about that. It's like, hey, this is a quality that I have that someone thinks is good looking. Say that they did wax their eyebrows. Hey, I did this. I went out and got my eyebrows waxed, and someone noticed. And someone said they look great. Like, I feel good about that. And no matter what the situation is, someone will probably feel good about it, even if it's a kind of weird thing. So I'm getting off eyebrows because I've said it too many times and now it's starting to sound weird. But the point I'm trying to make is that everybody wants to feel special and everybody wants to be noticed. And what better way to do that than saying that they're special and that they deserve to be noticed? So that's why I really try to remember and make myself compliment people, and for different reasons. I'm not just going to say, hey, you look great, or hey, you did great today, or that thing you did is cool or great. If you give a specific compliment and you really put that thought into it, that means so much. Again, the fact that my friend Kyle said, your writing's pretty good, I'd like to read more. If he said your writing's pretty good and left it at that, that in itself is a pretty basic compliment. Not that it's bad, it's still a great thing to get. But hearing that he wants to read more got me excited to write more, because I wanted an audience. I wanted someone to go through this character journey and this story with me, and that was exciting to me. That's the passion formed just like that. And he might not even think about it, but it was really helpful in helping. Obviously, it was really helpful in pushing forward my passions. Part of the reason that I decided to do the podcast is because I worked at McDonald's for a little bit, and I was in the drive-thru, and a few people said that I have a voice for radio, and that stuck with me. At a few different times, I've tried to do videos that are comedic in nature under the pseudonym Mr. Eighth Wonder, and I decided to do that because someone said that I was funny. Because I like being the funny person in a group of people. So for me, anytime someone gives a compliment, it kind of just inspires something, because it shows that I'm good at something, and it's something for me to keep pursuing if I'm passionate about it. And I think compliments are really important, and I don't think people say them enough. And if you're feeling pretty down in the dumps, it's going to happen. And people have hard times, and people can really struggle through stuff. And there might not necessarily be someone right by your side saying that you're doing great. and you're going to keep killing it. And I can't wait to see you on the other side, because you're going to be a whole different, more, mature, and mentally developed person. I don't want to say better, because everybody's great always. So, when there's that type of growth and stuff, everybody has a lot of stuff that they go through. Not everybody has a compliment. So I'll end this podcast by saying it's important to compliment people, because it makes the complimenter feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, and in my opinion, get more in touch with their emotions. It makes the person being complimented feel better, because that might not be something that they've heard before, and it might be able to help them through a tough time. You, yes, you, the person listening to this podcast, you're great. I think you're smart. Maybe not smart at everything, but nobody needs to be smart at everything. And I think you're pretty, because everybody has good qualities. So just keep killing it. You're doing great out there.